All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we are diving deep into a pretty heavy incident, the bombing at Quetta railway station in Pakistan.
Yeah, it's a tough one, a real tragedy.
It is, and to really get a handle on it, we've pulled together a whole range of sources.
Yeah.
Not just the usual suspects
Like
like
the Guardian and Al Jazeera.
we've got those, but also ABC News, even some Italian papers like Il Sole 24 Ore got in on this.
And that's key, right? Because what we want to do in this deep dive is go beyond just, okay, this happened. We've got to unpack the why, the who,
Yeah.
all the tangled threads.
Exactly, because this isn't just some isolated event.
Right.
It ties into separatist movements, national security, even global economics get pulled in.
Okay, so picture this. It's a Saturday morning. Quetta Station is bustling, people waiting for the Jaffar Express, vendors, you know the scene.
And from the sources, you really get a feel for it. Like the South China Morning Post, they talk about the platform's roof, steel structure just blown apart.
Wow.
ABC News, they focus on the aftermath, luggage everywhere, debris, the dust hanging in the air. It really paints a picture of the force of this blast.
Oh, absolutely. And amidst all that, the human cost.
Yeah, at least 26 people killed.
Soldiers, railway staff, civilians, just gone.
And over 60 injured, some with really severe injuries.
And the first-hand accounts are just gut-wrenching.
Where did you see those?
Al Jazeera, they had several. One guy, Ikhtiyar Hussein, he was a ticket inspector,
Oh, wow.
called it Judgment Day. He'd
Yeah.
been hit by shrapnel.
It's just awful.
There was another one, Hafiz Al-Adida. He was just seeing a friend off. Now he's in critical care.
These are the real consequences, not just numbers.
Right. These were people's lives.
And it makes the claims of responsibility that much more stark.
Yeah. The Balochistan Liberation Army, the BLA, they came right out and said it was them.
Now, for folks who might not be totally up on the BLA, what's their deal?
So they're a separatist group fighting for independence from Islamabad. And their statement, it specifically called out the military presence at the station. Both The Guardian and Al Jazeera pointed that out.
Makes you wonder if this was like a direct message then.
Oh, for sure. And it fits a pattern. They've been escalating for a while now.
And you mentioned they'd hit some Chinese targets before too, right?
Yeah, ABC News had a good rundown on that. Just in August alone, they hit buses, police, security forces, over 50 people killed.
Jeez.
They even attacked a convoy with Chinese nationals near Karachi airport. 2 fatalities there.
So not just military, they're broadening their scope.
Exactly. And it's not just these big splashy attacks either.
What else have they done?
Well, Il Post mentioned the Quetta station itself. It was already closed for a bit in August because the BLA hit the railway lines.
So they're actively trying to disrupt the region.
Oh, definitely.
Why hit the train station specifically? What were they going for?
To get that, we got to zoom out a bit, look at Balochistan itself.
Okay.
ABC News paints this picture. The province is rich, oil, minerals, you name it.
What?
It's also underdeveloped. There are constant allegations of exploitation.
And that's where the ethnic dimension comes in, right?
Exactly. Balochistan is home to the Baloch people. They're a minority in Pakistan.
And they feel like they're getting the short end of the stick.
That's what ABC News was getting at. They
Yeah.
claim discrimination, exploitation from the government, so separatist feelings, they run high.
Makes sense. It's a recipe for tension.
For sure, especially with ABC News also pointing out that there are Islamic militants active in the province too.
Talk about a powder keg.
Right. And in all of this, the BLA's motivations for this attack, they're complicated.
Lay it on me.
Well, both The Guardian and Al Jazeera, they emphasize that independence, that's the core goal.
Right, that makes sense.
So hitting military targets, it's a show of force, challenging the government directly.
But could it also be retaliation for something specific?
It's possible. ABC News mentioned that the BLA often responds to arrests or perceived injustices with violence.
So maybe a tit for tat kind of thing?
Could be, but there's another layer here we can't ignore. China.
Ah, yes, the
Yeah.
Chinese angle.
ABC News and Il Sol 24 Or both bring this up. China's been pouring money into Balochistan, part of their Belt and Road initiative.
Okay, I'm with you, but how does that connect to the BLA?
See, the BLA, they see these projects, these big infrastructure developments, as just another form of exploitation.
So taking their land, resources, without real benefit to them.
Exactly. And they've been targeting Chinese interests directly, demanding all projects stop, workers leave, the whole 9 yards.
So this attack, it's a message to Pakistan and China.
You got it. And it highlights just how many competing interests are at play here.
Right. You've got the Balak desire for independence, Pakistan trying to hold things together, and China with their economic ambitions. What a mess.
It is, and we've only just scratched the surface.
That's true, but before we dig deeper, I kind of want to throw it back to you, the listener.
Oh, good idea.
What are your initial thoughts on all this? What questions are popping up for you as we unravel this web of intrigue? It's clear this attack sent shockwaves, not just in Pakistan itself, but internationally too.
Oh, absolutely. In The Guardian, they had a piece on how Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, he condemned the bombing immediately,
Yeah, makes sense.
saying those responsible would, quote, pay a very heavy price. Strong words.
He's got to project strength, right? Especially with all the threats Pakistan is dealing with.
Right, because it's not just the separatists in the south. The Guardian pointed out they've got Islamist militants in the northwest, too.
So this attack, it really highlights how tough it is for them to keep things under control.
Especially in a place like Balochistan.
Yeah, but it's not just about Pakistan's internal issues, is it?
No, it raises concerns about foreign investments, too, especially
Right.
from, well, China.
China, they've been putting a lot of eggs in the Balochistan basket.
And Ilsoli 24 Ore, they picked up on how Beijing has been pushing Pakistan hard, saying, hey, keep our people safe.
And remember, just last month, that attack on the convoy with Chinese nationals.
Exactly. So this bombing, it could have ripple effect, spooking investors, maybe even disrupting the whole Belt and Road thing.
Okay, hold on. Before I go further, I think we need a quick explainer on the Belt and Road Initiative for those not in the loop.
Sure. So basically, it's this massive project by China, infrastructure development, investments all over the place, over 150 countries involved,
Wow, 150.
including Pakistan. And in Balochistan specifically, we're talking highways, pipelines, ports, the works.
So big money, big plans.
Big plans designed to boost trade, economic development. But there are critics, too.
Oh, yeah. What are they saying?
Well, some say it's going to saddle countries with debt, that there's not enough transparency in how it's all done.
So benefits, but also potential downsides.
Exactly. And for the BLA, they see Belt and Road as just another way they're getting exploited.
Right, taking their land resources without them seeing the rewards.
Exactly. So their attacks, they're not just about disruption. It's about saying no to Chinese involvement altogether.
So this one event, it's like pulling a thread on a sweater. Everything starts unraveling.
Yeah, Pakistan's security, China's economic goals, the lives of the Balak people, all tangled up.
And it's easy to get lost in the big picture stuff, the geopolitics.
But we can't forget the human side of it.
Al Jazeera, with those survivor accounts, they did a good job of bringing that home.
Those accounts really punch you in the gut. Like Intiar Hussein with the shrapnel wounds, calling it Judgment Day.
Yeah, and that other guy, Hafiz al-Adida, just seeing a friend off, now he's fighting for his life.
It's a reminder, this isn't just abstract, it's people's lives destroyed.
And it makes finding a solution all the more urgent.
It does, but it's so complex, so many layers.
The BLA wanting independence, claiming discrimination.
Pakistan trying to hold it all together, dealing with multiple threats.
And then China, this global powerhouse, focused on their own interests.
It's a real tangled web, and to untangle it, we need to look beyond simple explanations.
Right, no easy answers here.
No, we need to understand the history, the politics, the economics, see things from multiple angles.
It's not about pointing fingers or just condemning terrorism. It's about understanding the why.
Exactly. And then maybe, just maybe, we can start talking about how to fix it.
So where do we go from here? What are the potential paths forward in this situation? Okay, so we've laid out the challenges. BLA wanting independence, Pakistan trying to keep things stable, China with their own agenda. What now? Where do we even start trying to fix this?
It's tough, right? We're talking about decades of conflict here, deep-rooted issues. But there are some things we can consider.
Like what? Give me some hope here.
Well, for one, we got to take the Balak people seriously, their grievances.
You're talking about that sense of being marginalized, exploited.
Exactly. It can't just be lip service. There have to be concrete actions, empower them, both politically and economically.
Give me an example. What would that actually look like?
Okay, one idea, and it's a big one, is giving Balochistan more autonomy. Within Pakistan, of course.
More control, you mean?
Yeah, over their resources, how those resources are used, a bigger share of the revenue.
So less Islamabad calling the shots?
Right, more representation in the government too, a voice at the table when decisions are made.
That's a huge shift, though. Do you think Pakistan would go for it?
It'd be a tough sell. There's a lot of resistance to anything that looks like weakening central control.
Right, but you're saying the status quo, it's not working either.
Exactly. The violence, the instability, it hurts everyone, Pakistan included.
So even if they don't care about the bloc, it's in their own best interest to change things up.
That's the argument. Maybe giving up some control is the only way to get real stability in the long run.
Okay, but let's say they do that. There's still the BLA, the other militant groups. How do you deal with them?
That's the other half of the equation. And a purely military approach, it's not going to cut it.
We talked about counterinsurgency before, right?
Right. It's more complex. You need security measures, sure. But you got to win over the people, too.
Convince them that violence isn't the answer.
Exactly. And that means addressing the things that drive people to militancy in the first place.
Poverty, lack of opportunities, that kind of thing.
It's like, if you want to get rid of mosquitoes, you got to drain the swamp, not just swat at them.
So invest in the region, create jobs, improve education.
Exactly. Make it so that joining the BLA isn't the best option for young people.
Sounds like a long shot, though. Any reason to think it could actually work?
It's not easy, that's for sure. But there are success stories out there, other countries that have pulled it off.
What's the key?
Commitment. For one, you got to be in it for the long haul and open to dialogue, willing to compromise.
Not just saying my way or the highway.
Right, and this is where the international community can play a role too.
Okay, how so?
Well, they can provide aid, help with development projects, train Pakistani security forces.
So, supporting Pakistan, but what about putting pressure on them to do the right thing?
That too, they can act as mediators, encourage negotiations between the government and Baloch representatives.
Right, because right now it feels like everyone's talking at each other, not with each other.
Exactly, and there's one more player we need to bring in, China.
The elephant in the room.
Right, they've got so much invested in Balochistan, but their interests, they don't always line up with the Baloch people's.
So how do you get them on board with a peace process?
It's tricky because on one hand, their investment could be a good thing, bring development.
What on the other?
They've been accused of exploitation, grabbing land, ignoring environmental concerns.
So it's a double-edged sword.
It is. And for a solution to work, China has to be part of it, but they need to change their approach.
Be more responsible, you mean?
Exactly. More transparency, consulting with communities, making sure projects are sustainable, not just good for China's bottom line.
And respecting the bloc people's rights, not just seeing them as a means to an end.
Right. It's a big ask. But maybe, just maybe, these recent attacks, they've made China realize that the status quo isn't working for them either.
Like, if they want their investments to be safe, they gotta help create a stable Balochistan.
Exactly. It's an opportunity for them to be part of the solution, not the problem.
Well, that brings our deep dive to a close, folks. We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have. It's been intense.
The Quetta attack, the motivations behind it, the whole tangled history of Balochistan. It's heavy stuff.
And we've seen there's no easy way out. Finding peace, it's going to take a lot of work. Addressing the root causes, dialogue, compromise, all of it.
It's easy to get overwhelmed by all this, but I think the takeaway is that even small actions can help.
Right. Educating ourselves, talking about these issues, pushing for peaceful solutions.
It all adds up. It can make a difference.
And remember, this deep dive, it's just a starting point. There's so much more to explore.
Exactly. So keep researching, keep asking questions, form your own conclusions.
The quest for peace in Balochistan, it's a journey, and we all have a role to play.